I didn't go out looking for this piece of furniture. I had agreed with someone on Facebook Marketplace to buy a piece of furniture from them. When I got to their house and I knocked on the door, they never came to the door. So after 3 or 4 minutes, I gave up and I headed down to the local thrift store. And that's where I found this dresser. This dresser happens to be a Lane, and that explains why it's so heavy. This is a very heavy, well-built piece of furniture. One of the things that stuck out to me right away was this hardware. It's just unique. And the other thing that stuck out to me was this lower base. I'm noticing with my customers that this recessed base is very desirable. It's not exactly what I want, but it's about 90% of the way there. So what I intend to do is to add some very short legs just to get it off the ground a little bit. And then I was thinking about something else, and you can tell me in the comments what your thoughts are. Because it's oak, it's got a heavy grain. And some people, there's this debate, I guess, whether the grain looks good or whether the grain doesn't look good. I'm gonna leave the grain. I'm not gonna grain fill this. I'm gonna let it pop through the paint finish because I think it looks really nice. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. First thing I'm gonna do is get the hardware off of the dresser. I want to vacuum out the drawers and wipe everything down with a degreaser. Here I'm just doing some detail cleaning in the corners of these drawers. They'd collected a lot of dirt and the initial clean wasn't enough to get them out. Here I'm flipping the dresser on its back just to get better access to the bottom so that I can work on the base. After flipping the dresser onto its back, I was able to get a closer look at it, and I noticed that the veneer had chipped along the entire length of the base. So I decided to take it off and trim that broken piece so that it looked clean and neat again. This is an offcut from where I trimmed the base, and as you can see, this is some type of fiberboard. It's a composite material, mostly of wood chips and glue. I wanted to attach right to the bottom of this with a new pair of legs, but the more I thought about it, that's not a strong joint, and I didn't want to attach to its face because that would change the lines of the dresser. So instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this piece of solid wood, this is poplar, and I'm gonna recreate the base. And instead of attaching legs to it, I'm gonna cut the legs out of it into its profile. So let's do that next. Okay, now that I have the 3 main parts cut for the base, they'll be assembled like this. I need to cut a glue block to give some strength here. And I need to lay out where the feet are gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna lay out where these legs go. The original base was 2 7/8. That's fine by me. I'm gonna keep that height. I'll use my straight edge and I'll transfer that dimension all the way across my workpiece. So this is the original base. I'm gonna cut away material and leave a couple legs. I'm okay with this length. It's slightly bigger than I wanted it to be, but only by like 1/8 of an inch. So I'm not gonna mess with that. I'm just gonna make them square and come in 2 5/8. I'll remove this material. That'll leave me with the original skirt or base and some square legs. I'm going to assemble this corner. I made a glue block. I'm going to get this positioned in here.
and that'll give a lot of strength to this corner.
All right, I've installed the glue box in the corner. I set the miters as well on both sides. I did some wood filling on the edge because the miter wasn't perfect. We're going to do some final sanding and I'll be ready to attach this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get this base installed. I drive some screws from the cabinet side down and into that base. And now I'm staining the base with Varathane brand. The color is Early American. After staining the base, I applied a coat of shellac. This is the first of 3 coats of shellac. I've decided to replace the hardware on this dresser. I mentioned earlier how much I like the hardware. So it's a bit disappointing, but there were 4 pieces that were broke. And after looking at them, it's really not something I can fix. I'd probably have to know how to weld or something to fix them, and it's just not something in my skill set. So I've decided to replace them. So instead, I'm going to lay out the new locations for the hardware. I'll keep the old hardware and put it on something in the future because that's how much I like it. I think it's worth keeping. But in the meantime, we're going to get this laid out and drilled out. I'm going to fill a few voids in this drawer. I've marked them with blue tape. I did that on the dresser. I did it on all the drawers so that I could see them better. It just allows you to be a little more thorough. On my last project, I kind of just walked around with the putty and filled some things. That turned out not to be the best idea because I missed a couple things. And it wasn't a big deal really, but I'm kind of particular about it. I've been doing this for years, and so the difference between a DIY finish and a professional finish really is just how thorough you are and how much you care about what you're doing. Some of these actually aren't damaged. They're distressed spots. It's purposely here. I don't like them. It doesn't matter when it's gonna get painted, so I'm gonna fill them. It's time to give this a good sanding. After all the preparation was complete, I primed the dresser with white pigmented shellac. The white pigmented shellac will act as not just a barrier coat, but also a stain blocker. It'll prevent the tannins from coming through, any stains from coming through, and it'll also promote adhesion. After everything was primed, I sanded the entire dresser and wiped it down with a tack cloth. After doing that, I applied 2 coats of this waterborne lacquer. The color is Sherwin-Williams Taupe Tone. Okay, everything's painted and it's time for assembly. First thing to do is to get the drawers in, then we'll get the hardware on. Okay, the final thing I need to do, which is pretty exciting, is unmask this bottom. This dresser was never part of my original plan. I went out to pick up a different piece of furniture altogether and ended up finding this. Underneath that dated oak finish was a really well-built lane dresser with some great design details. What I like most about this color is that it softens the piece, but you can still see the depth of the wood grain. I also like how it adds so many shadows. Sometimes a piece just needs a second chance.